So, are you all ready to hear the truth of the story? Are you all ready to hear this heart-wrenching story? Because I must tell you, this was very difficult for me. It's always difficult when there's a mother that calls in with her child who, was always daring death, always mischievous, always doing wrong things. Well, so what exactly happened to this woman? Well, the truth of the matter is the mother who called, she called about her 31-year-old daughter by the name of Wati. Wati was always screaming and abusing her mother, always abusing the family members. And Wati took many deadly drugs, sometimes in combination of other synthetic drugs, mixing meds and cocaine. She always wanted to reach the end of death and come back. Can you believe that? Have you ever heard of somebody reaching to the end of death and coming back? Gosh. Well, of course, Wati didn't want to die because she knew exactly how much drugs to take in order to get high. It's like those kids who hang upside down and hoping to get a head rush. You've probably heard of that, and it happens quite a lot in colleges and high school in the U.S. Well, up to a few days ago, Wati dragged her mother by her hair across the room while Wati's 10-year-old and 6-year-old watched. Imagine dragging your own mother from one end of the house to the next by her head. Can you believe that? Well, of course not, because this does not happen. Well, Wati lived in the basement of her parents' home. Why? Because she didn't have any money to pay rent elsewhere, because she was always shooting up something. And one day she called her father on the phone crying. From the basement she was crying and begging for her mother to come and hold her. She was terrified of something, but the father kept asking her what it was, and all what he kept saying is, "Dad, I'm afraid, please get mom." This was on the phone. And what he said, they're here, Dad, and they're waiting for me. Her father said, "Wati, it's just you in the basement. Stop it, I am upstairs. Your mother is not home. She went to see the doctor because she wasn't feeling well." Wati kept screaming, and when her father actually ran downstairs to the basement, he saw her on the floor, wringing in pain. Her face was turning blue, and her hands were around her neck as if she was being strangled by an unforeseen force. Now, can you imagine, writhing in pain? By the time the paramedics arrived, she was already dead. So I'm afraid to tell you, she didn't make it. She lost her battle. This game she was playing with death. Was it the devil? Was she playing a game? I don't, no. Well, Wati's mother was shaking when she told me about Wati and what the father and what happened or transpired. She wanted to know from me if Wati was okay. The entire time the mother was telling me that story, the soul of Wati. Now I want you to remember that I can see souls very clearly. And the soul of the energy form, which is the astral form, was standing right next to Wati's mother. And she was also, the soul was also showing me her arms, which, apparently she was shooting up drugs. And when I asked the mother said Wati was always doing something wrong. She never had anything good to say, like Wati was doing something right. Always something where drugs was concerned, always abusive. I asked the mother if she was taking meds for schizophrenia or bipolar, and the mother said yes. I said, "Did you know your daughter was taking drugs, those drugs, mixed with other, synthetic drugs, meaning weed, cocaine, heroin?" The mother said, "No, we don't think so. We don't know, Well, from what he was showing me, her arms were black and blue. And what he was showing me around her head as well, it was very scary. The complexion wasn't normal, I asked the soul who was once Wati to show and tell me what drug she took this time. This last episode. What was it that she took? She showed me the kitchen cupboard, in the basement. It's very small, but inside the kitchen cupboard, behind the groceries, she was hiding a little packet of pills. The pills, what I saw, were little white, yellowish pills. Hard for me to explain because I never saw them in real. Well, Wati uttered Molly. Molly is actually another name for ecstasy. I would recommend you Google it because I've heard of it thanks to my children who are always educating me. So she took too much of that Molly, and what Molly said, what Wati said it did was, supposed to just get her high, get her on a high, um, just keep, something, get her going. But then all of a sudden, she felt a sharp pain in her chest, like a boom in her chest. And then all of a sudden, the soul is telling me that she felt a blast to her head. So boom, boom, one blast to the chest, one blast to the head. All she remembered was the ordeal, the ringing and the wrenching, and she said my last words were ma, mom, mom. But she said, they came, something came for her. She was bickering, or I don't know, I wasn't understanding clearly what she was saying. But she said they came, but they were grayish black creatures with funny faces that came for her. She remembered screaming to get away from them, but she couldn't, because from what she was showing me is that the things pulled her energy out, pulled her astral sheet out. It was being plucked from her. Boy, I tell you, while she was talking to me, I wanted to cry, but I couldn't show or tell her mother what Wati was going through. Then Wati the soul showed me her stomach. Oh my God, I said, oh my God. I asked her mother if Wati was pregnant, and her mother said yes. Wati was actually 3 months pregnant. Yes, Wati was pregnant. She was 3 months pregnant, and I believe there is a name for that in Trinidad, Churia or something like that, where an unborn baby dies along with the mother. You know who dies? Well, I didn't want to continue, but there was more. So at Wati's funeral, her 10-year-old son started acting as if he was possessed, screaming and jumping up on chairs, and they had to hold him down, and they couldn't hold him down. It was a lot of stuff happening, you know. There was definitely some unforeseen thing affecting this family, even at the home. I saw the basement door in my vision. I saw the basement door tightly shut. Nobody was going down to the basement. And when I asked her mother, she said no one wants to go down there. It's very scary. It's dark. It's and I even asked her if there was a smell coming from the basement, and she said yes. You know, so even Wati's mother kept feeling like a cold hand touching her at the house. When the mother says when she lie down, she'll feel something touching her head, touching her shoulders. Doesn't that scare you? Because it sure did scare me, you know. And I asked the soul, I said, why are you misbehaving? Why are you doing this to your family? They love you. They're not going to hurt you. She says, Wati, the soul says, I don't want anything from them. I want them to know I'm here. I said, but you don't belong on this plane of existence anymore. You belong somewhere else. And when I said something, I was speaking in my mind. I couldn't tell Wati's mother what was happening, what Wati was actually doing. And then I asked Wati, I said, do you want me to send a Sima? Do you want me to send a god, the god of death, who can pull you back down to hell? And she says, please, no, I need to talk to my mother. I need to communicate. And I said, that doesn't work, Well, the soul got very angry while I was talking to her, to the soul, and there was just this cold breeze in the room. Hard to explain, but it was really scary. Well, Wati's mother wanted me to come and cleanse out the house, their house. And I simply said, I'm sorry, but I can't, because I'm not in New York for that. I'm here for other reasons. And truthfully, that's a very difficult job to do. That's something that can take a lot of energy, a lot of manpower, because it's like there's so many demons in that house, not just in the basement, but Wati is traveling that house. They think she's in the basement, but the soul isn't in that basement anymore. When I asked Wati, I said, what are you still doing there, remember? She said to me again, I am going to take my sons with me. And I said, that's not going to happen. Of course, I gave the mother a mantra to use, and I told her mother, I cannot go, I cannot do this. I don't feel strong enough, but you can go to your Kali temple, which you're accustomed going to, and see if they can help you. And I do believe they can in some way help, So what do you say about something so negative, someone so negative? Wati was a terror in this life, and now she's a terror on the other side. Can you imagine? Daring death and terrorizing people for the fun of it, for the heck of it. But she lost the game of death. We tend to take life and this body for granted, eh? But this body was a gift to us, given to us by the gods and the goddesses. They cannot get a body. But here it is, we have one, and this is what we're doing with it? Are you kidding me? You know, this is the manner in which this body should be treated? Isn't that something to think about? Life is an ocean of bliss and happiness. But yet we think we can dare life by doing all kinds of nonsense with this body? See if it makes sense. Think about your actions. Think about, your family. Does it make any sense to misuse and damage this physical body? It doesn't make any sense. And, when I think I've heard it all, and I've heard the worst of it, trust me when I tell you, this was very heart-wrenching for me, because the mother, Wati's mother, cannot be normal anymore. She was living with a child, a daughter who was taking drugs and couldn't do anything for her. If your child or someone you know is taking drugs, the best thing to do is get help. Don't let them live in that house to abuse you or your family. This is Sister Devi. Thank you for listening. Please share your comments below. May God bless you, and may that light within you always shines brightly. Om Shanti.